Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs Delroy Chuck, when asked what move the government is likely to make if talks with the opposition PNP about constitutional reform fail to achieve consensus. Minister Chuck was speaking on Nationwide at 5 on Tuesday. Robian Williams reports.
Jamaica's transition to a republic has faced several setbacks. The opposition PNP withdrew from the Constitutional Reform Committee earlier this year after party leader Mark Golding criticized Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness for not stating his position on the country's final court of appeal. Following the September 3 general elections, Prime Minister Holness invited Mr. Golding to have a one-on-one dialogue on constitutional matters. The invitation follows Golding's rejection of an earlier letter which directed him to liaise with Minister Chuck instead. Minister Chuck says progress can only be made if both sides agree to move forward on areas where consensus already exists. He adds that if the opposition remains unwilling to compromise, the government may have to put the matter to the Jamaican people through a non-binding referendum.
Within the wider society, there are many possibilities. The Prime Minister, in his debate, said he himself favors a final appellate court, which is in Jamaica. Let us take this head of state out of the reform at the moment, because we have an agreement on that. Let us move then to the other areas, including the Caribbean Court of Justice as a priority, to see if we can get some agreement. And if we don't have an agreement, then we might well have to put it to the people. I don't think it's fair to see that the opposition can force us to accept what we don't agree with.
Minister Chuck also confirmed that no date has yet been set for preliminary talks between himself and Golding.
I haven't heard from Mr. Golding. I wrote him on the 2nd of October. Prime Minister wrote him before, and has since written him again. I haven't heard from him. Even in the bill now before Parliament to have the Jamaican as head of state and to remove to a Republican status, Mr. Golding had a problem with that legislation. Let us agree that we can move forward with this legislation. And as the government has said, the next stage will look at other constitutional changes.
Robian Williams for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, Minister Chuck says he supports calls for the Integrity Commission to be entrenched in the Constitution.
I have no difficulty in having the Integrity Commission entrenching it. I have no doubt that the legislation which is now before Parliament needs serious adjustment. I have no doubt that the committee is considering it now, the Joint Select Committee, yes, that we will have some proposal to strengthen the Integrity Commission, but also to ensure that it acts in a manner that is appropriate without destroying the reputation of persons.
According to Minister Chuck, the so-called gag clause in the Integrity Commission Act requires strengthening.
You don't talk about investigation in any of your reports and that you're investigating 6 or 8 members. Say investigation continues. For instance, you have a situation where they put out an annual report and say 6, then 8 persons are being investigated, and you have speculation all over the place. Stop talking about investigation. Do your investigation and then report.
So you're looking to strengthen the gag clause?
No, yes, so that you don't talk about investigation. Just do your investigation and then report.
Delroy Chuck, Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says it appears his opposition shadow, Dr. Alfred Dawes, has started his training early for the next general election due in 2030. Dr. Tufton, who on Tuesday gave an update to Parliament on the national situation concerning dengue fever, was reacting to Dr. Dawes' line of questions during his presentation. Shalois Michael tells us more.
The health minister in his statement told Parliament on Tuesday that the government remains alert to a potential outbreak of dengue fever. This is despite what he describes as a lower than expected number of cases so far this year. But opposition spokesman Dr. Alfred Dawes found the minister's address inadequate. He expressed shock that the dengue update was all the minister felt necessary to address in Parliament, given what he described as a week of alarming revelations within the health sector.
There are questions hovering around about an Integrity Commission report. There are questions as to how we are really dealing with mental health in Jamaica and the renaming and rebranding of a hospital that has leaking wards, overcrowded patients. patients, and no capital budget for about 5 years coming from the Ministry of Health, with previous announcements about destigmatization going back as far as from 2019 by the Honourable Minister, where residents are not growing their food at the Bellevue Hospital because of therapy, but because of sustenance, because the food budget has been cut.
According to Dr. Dawes, Minister Tufton continues to deflect from the real problems bedeviling his portfolio.
What has happened over the last week is that the Honourable Minister has been on a media tour deflecting from what is pertinent, his management of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And we are seeing where announcements are made that the delay at the Cornwall Regional Hospital will not be as great as it was predicted to be. We are seeing about where the Children's Hospital is going to be delayed. This is a pattern of no accountability and deflection, denying involvement, and then defamation of anyone who dares to criticize the Honourable Minister.
However, the Health Minister hit back. After an interjection from House Speaker Juliet Holness, he urged Dr. Dawes to stop campaigning as the general election is over.
To the member who raised the other issues, I'm not sure if it was a question or a statement. You know,
Statement by ministers. Minister, I hope you stick to the statement.
It is a statement.
Because as much as I allow the opposition member to go on and speak about other things other than the statement, in the strictest appreciation of the standing orders, it should not be so. And I hope we do not descend into that type of an arrangement. Member, if Minister, if you're finished answering the questions from a member, then I would like to know.
Madam, if you will indulge me just for one minute to say that the members seem to be practicing for the next general election. This election is done, the people have spoken, and we're on this side.
Shalois Michael for Nationwide News.
At least 4 cases of child trafficking are being investigated so far this year. That's according to National Rapporteur on Trafficking in Persons, Diane Gordon Harrison.
We've seen a significant number of the victims identified in Jamaica being children, and they're between the age of 11 through to 17. In 2020, we had 8 victims identified. 7 of them were children. In 2021, 10 victims, 6 were children. 2022, 11 victims identified, all 11 were children. In 2023, 13 victims were identified, 7 of them were children. And in 2024, of the 10 victims identified, all 10 were children. And so far for 2025, we have identified 4 victims and all 4 are children.
Gordon Harrison was speaking at the recent Jamaica Baptist Union Historical Society's 22nd Annual George Leal Lecture at Mamby Park Baptist Church in St. Andrew. Data shows that between 2020 and the end of September 2025, over 80% of the people trafficked in Jamaica were children. Gordon Harrison, who's also the children's advocate, says at least 70% of victims were trafficked for sexual exploitation. Another 25% were trafficked for forced labor. Surprisingly, she says females are emerging as the main perpetrators of trafficking.
Men so far in Jamaica are predominantly identified as the main perpetrators of human trafficking. However, females are gradually assuming a more dominant role. They are appearing as traffickers themselves or as very significant players within the human trafficking syndicate or organization, and they assist with the recruitment and so on. They assist with the orientation as to what the new recruits must do if they are going to have this business operate and bring in the profit. So we see that women are really using their nurturing side for not so good purpose.
Diane Gordon Harrison, National Rapporteur on Trafficking in Persons and a Children's Advocate. Suspected cases of human trafficking can be made to the police at 119, Crime Stop at 311, or the nearest police station. You can also contact the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons, NATFA-TIP, at 876-906-4908 to 21. President of the Caribbean Council of National Parent Teachers Associations, Everton Hannum, is calling for a united approach to address what he says is the alarming rate of bullying among children. Hannum says bullying is a widespread social virus that threatens the safety and well-being of children across the region.
It has to be a collective approach. Parents are important in the process. Students are important in the process. Because what we like to see is more of parents' involvement, and just not involvement, but parents' active engagement towards the process.
Hannum says his group is reaffirming its commitment to partnering with regional governments and education stakeholders to make schools across the Caribbean safe and inclusive spaces for every child. We
at the Caribbean Council for PTA will engage our partners, will engage our members across the CARICOM, members and associate member states, suggest, recommend positions, recommend steps to take, so we can also have the discussions and take these discussions in international or regional forum that we might participate in. We anticipate that the response will be tremendous. We anticipate that there will be a lot of points to be mentioned, but we have to ensure that all the points that I mentioned will reflect the true position of PTAs, of parents, and our different stakeholders across the region.
Everton Hannum, President of the Caribbean Council of National Parent Teachers Associations. The Jamaica Public Service Company, JPS, says it has no reports about a power outage at St. Anne's Primary School in Kingston. Classes were suspended at the school Tuesday due to the continued absence of electricity. It's understood that the school has been without the utility for the last 3 weeks. And the acting principal, Trishana Mitchell-Francis, says that the matter has been reported to the Education Ministry.
We have some issues with our light situation. We have reported the matter to the ministry and it is being dealt with so far. A generator is being sought out to come to the school. However, probably because of the period of time, parents are just a little bit angry, but we are doing our best to assess the situation.
Trishana Mitchell-Francis, acting principal of St. Anne's Primary School. JPS says it has been redirected to the Education Ministry to get further information about the issue. In international news now, the Israeli military said Wednesday that one of the bodies handed over by Hamas the previous day as part of the ceasefire deal does not match any of the hostages who were held in Gaza. There was no immediate word on whose body it was. 4 bodies were handed over by Hamas on Tuesday. A previous 4 were handed over on Monday, hours after the last 20 living hostages were released. In all, Israel has been awaiting the return of the bodies of 28 deceased hostages. Israel, which released around 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees on Monday, is also handing over bodies of Palestinians under the deal. The U.S. proposed a ceasefire plan had called for all hostages, living and dead, to be handed over by a deadline that expired on Monday.